there was one movie that went out the weekend and had man's box office in the quantum realm, bro. Out of all the movies it could have been, a little film called Cocaine Bear came out of nowhere, directed by Elizabeth Banks. I think may have even been written by her. Have you heard anything about the true story?
I heard that there was cocaine and a bear ate it and then the bear died. There's some more intrigue to it because the bear was then illegally taxidermied and now lives in a mall in Kentucky somewhere. I feel like I would rather have seen that movie than the one that we got.
That would have been more interesting. It's kind of like in Ant-Man when they gave you the recap, except when they stopped at the most important, most intriguing part. Wow, well, that's interesting. I assumed it was just Paddington having a wild night out, but the whole movie is designed to just shock you in theaters. Like, this is a movie where the least you know about it, I guess, the better. Depending on what audience you watch it to, you're either going to have one of two things going on. People who just think every single CGI like attack is outrageous, or the people who find everyone using drugs a little too funny because they're critiquing the drug use and not necessarily the moment. A lot of people were very hyped up for this movie because they thought it was going to be something that, it's not a franchise. It's technically not a spin-off to anything else.
Yet.
Personally, I think it tried too hard for what it was going for. And you had a specific theory about this because we've been noticing stuff with companies doing like fan fiction on their IP. We've been seeing companies really go in and try to make a franchise. This is the opposite. They're franchising something else, these studios. And you wanted to talk about that.
Well, I think we've seen a pretty interesting trend, and Universal seems to be the studio that's taking the most advantage of this because they've had a few hits now. They've had a pretty solid past few months in theaters between Violent Night, which is the Santa Claus beats people up in the style of John Wick movie, Megan, which is the little girl AI robot comes to haunt people movie, and now this one, Cocaine Bear, a bunch of films that can basically be reduced down to like meme movies, movies that are sold off of an outlandish premise, basically built to be shared in ridiculous clips and jokes posted online. And yet all of these movies on relatively modest budgets of like 20 to 30 million are huge box office successes, are generating a lot of organic viral discussions. And it just seems interesting to me that this is now outside of, making a new Top Gun or Avatar or Marvel movie, one of the most guaranteed paths to box office success in 2023.
It reminds me of voice acting when they just said, forget everybody who's talented in this. We want actors, and we need their voice. It needs to be Robert De Niro. It needs to be whoever it is. They are nothing compared. You got to have a stacked cast, and none of them mean anything to the CGI being. I don't think the CGI in the movie was that great. I was hoping that the casting... Yeah. I was hoping that the actors would bring something to it, and they do. Casting or the CGI?
The CGI, just like, it's not like terrible in that the bear does look like a bear, but it's bad in the sense that it never feels real. And particularly in a movie like this, which is so reliant on like feeling how viscerally gross and uncomfortable those kills are, when you don't buy into the reality of the movie because nobody looks like they're looking at an actual creature, it just takes away a lot of the experience from it. When a car crashes into a tree and a clearly CGI body flies through the windshield, it doesn't affect you in the same way.
And again, I think that's because they're expecting people to maybe be on substances when you watch it, so you won't see that.
Yeah.
The CGI of the bear, I agree with you. And a lot of the action, I did like the prosthetics. I thought whenever they were trying to do the gashes and the slashes, all that stuff, it looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
The characters, though, you have some heavy hitters on here. I appreciate what Ray Liotta's doing. Alden goes all into it. It kind of hurt Alden because Alden's actually acting dramatic. So when he's doing a yell that he also did in a dramatic movie from Sundance, it's making me like the dramatic yell from Sundance less because now I'm not taking him seriously. I was like, oh, your yell when it's your partner taking the career from you and your yell when it's a CG Cocaine Bear are the same thing, my man.
Mm-hmm.
It's rough. I will say probably the one who does the most with it. The kid's the kids tried a lot. I don't understand personally all the jokes with the kids.
Tried too much.
Isaiah Whitlock Jr. Isaiah Whitlock Jr. had one of the funniest scenes last year in Atlanta in the mall. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. He was trying his best here. I think he had a lot of the moments where, as the authority figure, as the cop, he's trying to also not just figure out what this bear is because he doesn't know about it. He's tracking down what is the cocaine, the drug bust. And I thought whenever they were trying to play the dramatic and also like absurd humor, this man handled it the best. But it was a lot of hit or misses, I think. And
missed opportunity to not have him say his iconic shit line in a movie like this one. But yeah, like you mentioned, there's all these different characters and just none of them are interesting. There's the storyline where Kerry Russell is a mom going to try and find Brooklyn Prince, and it's like there's just nothing going on there. She just follows further into the woods. There's this whole thing with Margot Martindale's like a park ranger trying to hit on somebody, but like you're never given enough to care about any of these characters. It's just very like, here's a template for a movie about a bear and a bunch of characters. And you mentioned we didn't mention that the script was written by this guy Jimmy Warden. He apparently came across the idea while scrolling Twitter and just sort of wrote it to get attention, never thinking it would get made. I think it's pretty obvious that he never thought this one would get made. Because like there's just sort of nothing in the movie. There's no real jokes. There's no inventive scares. There, Elizabeth Banks brings absolutely nothing to it. There's no distinctive style, no memorable locations, no interesting choices with the performances. It's just like a nothing burger of a movie that's completely getting by on its good title and log line. And kind of crazy that that's all you need to make $23 million opening weekend.
You like Megan, though.
I like Megan.
You think
I'm
Megan
not saying
did more than this?
So like I'm not against the idea of a meme movie. And in fact, like sometimes I think to simplify a premise does open it up in a way that makes it more accessible to people. But like, you then have to have something behind it, right? Like you have to have a sense of humor or have like some ideas for scary moments. There's just nothing here. Like what is a choice they made that benefited this movie? Can you name one? Because I can't.
People went crazy when he did the line.
It's in the trailer.
You don't like any of these other...
What they did is they directed a trailer. They directed a trailer, and then there's 80 more minutes marketing around. Yeah.
100%. You don't like any of the other movies that she's made? You don't think she's ever had it? Did you have any hope going into it?
I like Elizabeth Banks a lot, but yeah, I don't think she's suited to this directing thing.
For me, you mentioned the writer, and I saw the other things that they had done from the Babysitter movies. I think this is exactly up those alley. Those I've seen on streaming. I think Cocaine Bear isn't the worst. It's not great. It isn't the worst. I think if you watch it with a group of people as a rent it, I think it's definitely fun. Because that's how I saw the Babysitter movies. If you went out to theaters on the weekend, I think you're past the time to see it in theaters. You needed to have seen this with a crowd just to get them vibing with you, just to get them going crazy. If you're seeing this in an empty crowd, I might as well have just seen it at home, in my opinion. So my rating for it... stay at home. Wait for it to come out.
I went to a movie theater. I went to a movie theater last night. There was me and maybe 10 other people there, and it had 4 walkouts.
Yikes.
So I don't know if I've ever seen that many walkouts with that few people in attendance.
Well, again, it pitched itself as a movie that you will forget, as a movie that does not need any more in-depth things. And sure.
And to piggyback off of what you're saying, though, I don't think it's like literally the worst thing around. Somebody commented on my Letterboxd review, surprised that I didn't give it a lower score. But it's because like I just feel like there's an absence of good more than I feel like it's actively bad. It's mostly just bland and okay and boring, right?
Yeah, what you're upset about is the fact that this was able to beat out a Marvel movie for one day at the box office because the intrigue for it, which, like you said, was nothing, got people to go there. So when are we going to get... I mean, to talk about another bear, last week we talked about the Winnie the Pooh one. The Winnie the Pooh one is absolutely nothing. So no one would be mad at you for being upset about that movie creating something out of nothing. I guess we like the actors here, and it's so absurd, and they got TikTokers to make stuff that you're right. We are letting it pass. We are letting it pass a little bit, but Zach hated it. I thought it was okay. Cocaine Bear, watch it at home with some some people, and I think you'll have a decent time.